Have you ever wondered why some people, let's call them dark souls or simply the wicked, zero in on almost everyone around you but seem to bypass you entirely? It's as though they have a radar telling them, "Don't mess with that one." And you can sense it in the way they talk, the way they shift their gaze, and the way they single out all sorts of individuals for ridicule, manipulation, or outright hostility. Yet somehow, you remain untouched. You stand there, often in the same space as their victims, but you're left in peace. It's intriguing, right? It almost feels like they've sized you up and silently decided, nope, not going there. You might ask yourself, am I invisible? Am I too boring for them to target? But deep down, you know that's not the reason. There's a different energy at play, a palpable sense that you aren't worth the risk for them. These malicious individuals may snicker behind backs, whisper lies, and try to rally an entire crowd against certain people. But when it comes to you, they're oddly respectful. Or maybe it's more accurate to say they're afraid. They know something about you sets you apart. And it's not something trivial like your looks or your job title. It's something internal, like a light that they can't bear to confront. In this video, we're going to delve into the 4 reasons these people avoid you, even though they're terrorizing everyone else in your circle, workplace, or community. Now, I'm not going to spoil it all in this introduction. The reasons themselves are powerful, and they each speak to a different facet of what makes you essentially untouchable by these forces of negativity. But before we dive into each one, I want you to make a promise, a small affirmation to yourself and to all of us tuning in. Down below in the comments, before you hear each reason, write, "I stand in my power." Let that be your mantra. Let that be the declaration that sets the tone for how you receive these truths. Because make no mistake, once you grasp what's really keeping these malevolent forces from crossing your boundary, you'll realize you wield far more influence than you've ever imagined. You might have suspected it, but it's time for confirmation. So, get ready. We're about to shine a light on that hidden dynamic that makes evil tremble and stops it dead in its tracks when it comes anywhere near you. Stay tuned, because these 4 reasons might just change how you see yourself and how you move through a world filled with darkness. 1. Your unshakable presence, your aura. This aura isn't some mystical force you can see with the naked eye. It's more like an energetic presence, a resonance that communicates loud and clear, "I'm not to be trifled with." You've probably noticed how some people walk into a room and instantly command attention. Well, guess what? You're one of those people. Even if you don't feel it, trust me. You radiate a certain presence that these malevolent individuals can sense a mile away. Think of it like this. Negativity is always on the lookout for easy prey. Individuals who doubt themselves, who shrink back, or who apologize for existing become the perfect targets. The wicked feed off that insecurity. They look for cracks in a person's self-esteem to drive in their wedges of manipulation. But when you carry yourself with even a sliver of self-assurance, when you stand tall and refuse to bow, these dark souls immediately detect that you're different. They see no obvious cracks, no open doors. You become an impenetrable fortress in their eyes. Here's an example. Imagine a workplace scenario where a toxic colleague loves to pick on the new hires. He senses their nerves, their desire to please, and starts playing mind games, spreading gossip and belittling them in meetings. But with you, he keeps his distance. Why? Because from day one you presented yourself with calm confidence. You didn't need to boast or brag. You simply showed you were comfortable in your own skin. And that signals to him that any attempt to undermine you would be met with resistance and likely blow up in his face. Does it mean you're never afraid? Of course not. But your inner posture says, I may feel the fear, but I'm going to stand firm anyway. Evil doesn't want to waste time on that. It's not worth the headache. And trust me, these cunning folks are all about risk versus reward. If the reward of picking on you is small and the risk of backlash is huge, they'll move on to someone else. So remember, your unyielding aura isn't some magical cloak. It's the silent statement of self-respect you carry with you wherever you go. Evil sees it, senses it, and knows better than to cross that line. Affirm in the comments, I stand in my power. Reason 2. The fear of retribution. Before we unpack this second reason, affirm once again in the comments, I stand in my power. Write it, declare it, mean it. We're building a strong foundation here, one that wards off the dark energies looking for weak spots. When we talk about retribution, we're not necessarily discussing old-school vengeance or wrath. We're referring to the natural consequences that occur when someone attempts to harm a person who doesn't tolerate nonsense. These malicious individuals often run elaborate smear campaigns, hoping to isolate their targets. They'll spin lies, twist stories, and paint a picture of you that doesn't resemble the truth. But in your case, they hold back. Why? Because they suspect, sometimes instinctively, sometimes from observing your actions, that any attack on you will lead to serious pushback. Picture it like a game of chess. They look at you and think, if I move on this piece, will I trigger a chain reaction that ends badly for me? And for you, the answer they arrive at is, yes, absolutely. They anticipate you'll call them out publicly, report them to the right authorities, or simply give them a reality check so severe that their whole plan could collapse. Evil thrives in secrecy and subterfuge, but when it comes to you, they see too many floodlights ready to snap on. That's the fear of retribution, the knowledge that their schemes will be exposed, condemned, and possibly even reversed against them. Here's a real-world scenario. Let's say there's a particularly venomous gossip at your church, your office, or your neighborhood block party. They love sowing discord, whispering rumors that pit people against each other. Now they've tried that method on multiple unsuspecting souls and succeeded. But with you, they hold their tongue. Why? Because your reputation in that community is one of fairness and honesty. The minute they try to slander you, they know you'll respond with facts. You'll stand up for yourself, and others will believe you over them. They fear not just your response, but the collective support you've garnered through consistent integrity. Another layer of this retribution is karmic in nature. People might not call it karma, but they do sense that wronging someone who stands in truth comes at a high spiritual cost. In their minds, they're thinking, it's not worth the cosmic backlash, even if they can't articulate it. And so they steer clear, keep their distance, and avoid stirring up trouble in your direction. After all, why start a fight they can't win? Reason 3, they can't manipulate your mind. Go ahead and reaffirm your power in the comments. I stand in my power. Each time you write it, you're making a declaration not just for yourself, but for anyone watching, including those dark souls who might be lurking in silence. Now, let's get into the third reason. Evil people rely on manipulation, like a fish relies on water. Their entire modus operandi hinges on finding someone's weak spot. An insecurity, an unresolved trauma, a hidden fear. They poke, prod, and pry until they find a place to sink their claws. Once they're in, they distort your perceptions, twist your emotions, and have you questioning your own worth. It's a psychological chess match where they aim to dictate your moves. But here's the kicker. They can't manipulate your mind. You see, your mind is guarded by discernment. You're not perfect. No one is. But you've developed enough self-awareness to recognize when something doesn't feel right. Maybe you've been through hardships, betrayals, or manipulative relationships in the past, and you learned from them. You built up an internal radar that flags suspicious behavior. As a result, you don't easily swallow rumors, you don't entertain baseless accusations, and you certainly don't fall for flattery that reeks of ulterior motives. Consider a friend group scenario. One toxic individual might try to pit you against another friend by fabricating a story. They say, "Did you hear what so-and-so said about you?" hoping to sow doubt and spark drama. But instead of taking the bait, you calmly check the facts. You talk to the other person directly, ask questions, and see if things line up. 9 times out of 10, you find out it was just a ploy. Now the manipulator realizes you're not gullible. You're actually someone who seeks the truth. And just like that, their game plan collapses. Why do they do this so freely with others, but not with you? Simple. Most people, unfortunately, go on autopilot, reacting emotionally to rumors and deception. They don't pause to discern, but your reaction is different. You question, you verify, and you hold your emotional ground. That's the last thing a manipulator wants. They'd rather move on to someone who won't question them, someone whose mind they can easily hijack. In essence, they leave you alone because your mind is a fortress. You've learned to trust your gut. You know how to separate facts from fiction, how to remain calm under pressure, and how to challenge anything that feels off. To them, it's not just a dead end. It's a humiliating trap they're wise enough to avoid. Reason 4. Your light exposes their darkness. One more time, flood the comments with, "I stand in my light." Let that phrase ring out. Now, let's peel back the curtain on the most profound reason of all. Your light exposes their darkness. At first glance, this might sound a bit dramatic, like something out of a spiritual or metaphysical text. But think about it in practical terms. People who thrive on negativity flourish in shadows, in half-truths, in manipulative illusions. They hate being called out. They despise being confronted by honesty, compassion, or genuine moral clarity. It's like shining a bright flashlight on a cockroach-infested corner. Everything scrambles and hides because it can't bear the illumination. You, whether you realize it or not, carry that flashlight. Maybe it's your unwavering integrity, your compassion for others, or your refusal to engage in baseless gossip. In every community you enter, be it a workplace, a social circle, or even an online forum, you stand as a beacon of what's right. And darkness simply cannot coexist comfortably alongside that kind of radiance. Imagine a scenario where a group of people starts mocking someone with cruel jokes. They expect you to join in, or at least offer a slight laugh to show agreement. But instead, you do the unexpected. You give a gentle but firm pushback. Maybe you say, "Hey, let's not go there," or "Actually, that's not funny." Immediately the atmosphere changes. Those who were feeding on cruelty begin to squirm because you just exposed their maliciousness. Suddenly, they're forced to face themselves, and they don't like it. Why don't they pull this kind of stunt on you more often? Because they know how it'll end. You'll light up that darkness with truth, empathy, or direct confrontation. You'll make it clear that you're not playing their game, and the moment they realize your light is too bright for them to handle, they retreat. They'd rather avoid you entirely than risk being exposed for the hateful or manipulative people they are. Yes, sometimes being this light-bearer can feel lonely. You might wonder why certain people distance themselves from you. The truth is, they can't stand the mirror you hold up to their behavior. But here's the silver lining. Your very presence elevates the environment. You're a force for good simply by refusing to stoop to their level. And in a world that can sometimes feel dark and menacing, that is a gift beyond measure. So stand tall, let your light shine, and watch as evil shrinks away into the shadows, because it knows you will call it out for what it is. You may have noticed the small attempts they made, little seeds of doubt they tried to plant, the half-hidden glances, the under-the-breath comments meant to rattle your confidence. At first, you might have questioned whether you were imagining things. Then you realized the truth. Yes, they were testing the waters, probing for weaknesses, seeing if you'd be another easy mark. But here's what changed the game. They saw you weren't budging. You didn't flinch, you didn't waver, and you certainly didn't shrink back. Suddenly, those whispers grew quiet. Those sidelong stares stopped dead, and the gossip that flowed so freely about everyone else dried up when it came to your name. Why? Because they knew better. They knew crossing you wouldn't just be a waste of time. It could be their undoing. In their twisted minds, it's easier to say, "I'll just steer clear of that one," than to risk being exposed. It's like a pack of predators circling the herd. They sense which animals are strong, which ones are vigilant, and which ones aren't going to roll over without a fight. And you're the one that stands tall, eyes unwavering, heart steadfast, ready to stare down the beast if it dares approach. That's the power you possess. And it's not about physical strength. It's about the invincible combination of self-respect, discernment, and unwavering moral clarity. They tested the boundaries, maybe tried to spread a rumor once or twice, hoping it would stick. But the rumor died out before it even gained traction, because you either confronted it head-on or carried yourself in such a way that no one would believe it. That's the effect you have on people. Your energy speaks volumes. It doesn't shout, it simply stands in truth. And truth is a force that darkness can't really handle. Not when it's backed by conviction, by a willingness to speak up, to call foul when you see it, to shine a light on deceit the moment it tries to tiptoe around you. Make no mistake. Those who operate in malice know exactly who they can fool and who they can't. With you, they see a no-win scenario. They know that if they get too close, you'll sense their evil intentions like a sudden chill in the room. You'll see their claws before they even extend them, and you'll cut them off, publicly if you have to. That's why they stay in their corner, nursing whatever darkness fuels them, all the while respecting the boundary you've erected. Because they know pushing you is not just unwise, it's dangerous for them. So hold your head high, because you've earned the kind of respect that evil grudgingly bestows upon those it can't defeat. You are a living example of what it means to be unshakable. You stand in your power and radiate a light that reveals truth wherever you go. And no matter how much they hiss and scheme from the shadows, they know this unassailable fact. You will not be moved. They tried, and they failed. And that, my friend, is the ultimate victory.